In coffee shops all over the world, there are people furiously typing away on their little screens, hunched over their tea or coffee, absorbed in their own worlds, never to be given more than a passing glance. But sometimes, those little worlds of theirs expand and contort into stories that take the world by storm, opening up for generations to come and immersing man, woman, and child into a world of awe-inspiring magic and adventure like no other. In fact, it was in one such shop that Joanne, better known to the masses as J.K. Rowling, cradled her sleeping child and wrote the early chapters of the series that has inspired so many, Harry Potter. This is her rags to riches story. It was in the back room of the Elephant House, looking out at the looming facade of the Edinburgh Castle, that the tale of Harry Potter began to bud into something more than a jumbled idea. Rowling sat, as any writer would, scribbling out page after page of magical adventures. She wrote of a boy trapped in a horrible situation. He was in cramped living quarters, he suffered verbal abuse, and he had nowhere to turn for a helping hand. In many ways, this mirrored much of Rowling's life at the time. Her own life was in shambles, a sort of unshakable hell that she would only be able to escape by some act of magic. Her marriage had failed, leaving her jobless with a young child and in need of welfare support in order to keep a roof over their heads. She was diagnosed with depression and even contemplated ending her own life. However, she took her situation and used it to fuel her writing. Even her depression makes a debut in her stories in the form of the soul-sucking creatures that guard Azkaban, Dementors.
I'd had a short and really quite catastrophic marriage, and I'm left with this baby, and I've got to get this baby back to Britain, and I've got to rebuild us a life. And adrenaline kept me going through that, and it was only when I came to rest that it hit me what a complete mess I had made of my life. And that hit me quite hard. We were as skint as you can be without being homeless. In other words, we were existing entirely on benefits. And at that point, I was definitely clinically depressed. And that's just characterised for me by a numbness, a coldness, and an inability to believe that you will feel happy again or that you could feel light-hearted again. It's just all the colour drained out of life, really.
Dementors are among the foulest creatures that walk this earth. They infest the darkest, filthiest places. They glory in decay and despair. They drain peace, hope, and happiness out of the air around them. Get too near a Dementor, and every good feeling, every happy memory will be sucked out of you.
Depression clinical depression is a terrible place to be. Terrible place to be.
So you became depressed after your mother died?
Yes, but I think it was a kind of delayed. I think I had tendencies towards depression from quite young. It became really acute when I was sort of 25 to 28. Was a dark time.
In 1990, Joanne moved to Portugal to teach English. This was also the year that her mother died. It was here in Portugal that she met and fell in love with, and eventually married, Jorge Arantes. The passionate beginning was sparked by a mutual love of literature and sex, and it didn't take long for the two to move in together. They swung back and forth between tumultuous arguments and frantic lovemaking, and after several months of this, Joanne learned she was pregnant. It was unplanned, and they were of course nervous, but they decided to have the child anyway. The couple soon, though, experienced heartache, as she had a miscarriage. A few months later, Rowling was pregnant again, and she accepted the marriage proposal. Unfortunately, their marriage was anything but happy. Jorge struggled with drug addiction, and in the end, Joanne decided she couldn't take it anymore, so she took her daughter and fled to Scotland. Rowling managed to persevere through everything, finding peace in writing about young Harry's trials as a wizard. She wrote and wrote every spare second consumed by Harry, Hermione, Ron, and their endless battles against the dark magical force known as Voldemort. Finally, she pulled it all together into the first manuscript named Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Rowling excitedly sent off the first 3 chapters to a publisher, her excitement mounting, but the publisher quickly turned her away. She didn't let it discourage her, however, and sent the manuscript out to several new publishers. She was turned down by every single one. After those 12 rejections, Rowling was feeling a bit disheartened, but she sent a copy off to the Bloomsbury Publishing Company anyway, and by chance, the editor sat down and read it to their daughter that night. The child loved the story so much and was so excited to hear the ending, the publisher decided to publish the finished work, but warned Rowling that there was no money to be had in children's books. She quickly proved them wrong by climbing to the top of the bestsellers list, and finishing and publishing several more books embellishing the magical adventures of Harry Potter and the Wizarding World. Harry Potter skyrocketed Rowling from a near penniless mother struggling to support her child to being the first female novelist on the Forbes billionaire list. However, she has always held in her heart the struggles that she has faced while getting there, and has decided to use her money to help others who are also struggling.
You have a moral responsibility when you've been given far more than you need, to do wise things with it and give intelligently,
She said in a past interview. She has been involved with charities linked to poverty and children's welfare. Rowling even founded Lumos, a namesake charity after one of the spells in her book, geared towards helping children all over the world living in institutions and orphanages, many with mental and physical disabilities, who have absolutely no control over their own lives.
I looked at that photograph of the boy in his cage bed and felt he had absolutely no voice. This touched me as nothing else has, because I can think of nobody more powerless than a child, perhaps with a mental or a physical disability, locked away from their family. It was a very shocking realization to me, and that was where the whole thing started.
She has also written and published 3 Harry Potter-related books for charity purposes. By 2012, she had raised nearly $30 million for charity. Rowling has managed to stay busy despite the ending of the Harry Potter series. She has even published several new adult novels completely unrelated to the magical world she first created, including The Casual Vacancy, The Cuckoo's Calling, and The Silkworm. There are surely many more stories rattling around in her head as she has said,
I'll be writing until I can't write anymore. It's a compulsion with me. I love writing.
Rowling's story is one with just as many twists as her famous 7-book series. And the moral to be taken from this is that if we follow our passions and we do not allow our own frustrations to deter us from striving toward our goals, then we too can achieve greatness from little more than our own determination. After all, as Rowling herself has said,
some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default.
This has been a special insider's look of J.K. Rowling's life by Donnie Martin. All images and music is copyright to their respective owners. The title screen was created by yours truly. Thanks for watching and have a great day.